Hello, my name is Dr. Laura Spencely, and I'm an assistant professor of school psychology at the State University of New York at Oswego. I'm here today to discuss positive behavioral interventions and supports, otherwise known as PBIS for short. My goal in talking with you today are to highlight some of the core features of a PBIS system, as well as some of the common misconceptions. I'll also weave in some discussion about the roles of various adults in school communities in implementing and maintaining PBIS, including school psychologists and other support staff like school counselors and mental health counselors, but also our teachers, administrators, and other staff. First, to begin, PBIS is a system of teaching behavioral expectations within an educational setting, much in the way that we teach students academic skills. PBIS is not one single intervention or set of rules that will change a school community. Instead, PBIS is an approach for helping school communities not only adopt behavioral expectations, but organize behavioral expectations around the behaviors that most impact students' academic and social functioning within that school community. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to school-wide positive behavior support, nor is there one intervention that will meet all of the needs of a student within a community. In this way, PBIS has sometimes been considered similar to response to intervention, or RTI. At the core, the shared features of both RTI and PBIS is a preventive framework for addressing student difficulties that includes a focus on evidence-based practice and intervention, along with explicit training for all students and the opportunity to learn the skills and behaviors that are expected to be demonstrated throughout the school day. At the core, PBIS is meant to include these same features to allow all students to develop and display the skills that will contribute to their success, not only in the school community, but hopefully generalized to the home community as well. In a nutshell, the goals of a well-designed and implemented system of PBIS help organize these interventions and expectations, improve our implementation of behavioral intervention and training throughout a school community, and increase the likelihood that all students, regardless of background, are given the opportunity to learn the skills that will promote their academic and social success across settings, as I indicated. So let's take a second to break down some of the core features of a PBIS system. First, as I had indicated, PBIS is not to be implemented by one individual. It is a team-based approach. PBIS is a system of supporting all students, and for that reason, we need to include all of the individuals who are responsible for supporting students. Yes, this includes our helping professionals like school counselors, social workers, and psychologists, but it also includes any adult within the building, from a cafeteria aide to a hall monitor. For that reason, PBIS requires a team-based approach that includes buy-in from our school communities. Within this system, PBIS requires the use of empirically supported and functionally relevant behavioral interventions to support student success. As I indicated, PBIS is not simply a response to a behavioral problem, but a system in which we proactively work to give students the opportunity to learn the skills that will contribute to their success. From that perspective, we can also develop behavioral interventions and responses to misbehavior that are not only functionally relevant, but allow the student increasing opportunities to develop that skill with our supervision. Thirdly, PBIS requires clearly defined rules and behavioral expectations for students across settings. While some schools will use PBIS to address the behaviors of one student, typically PBIS is used to build a community of behavior within a school. And for that reason, usually PBIS will include explicitly posted general rules. You'll typically see things like be respectful and be responsible. Underlying those particular rules are more discrete descriptions of what does a respectful behavior look like in the cafeteria, what should the body be doing, what should the eyes be doing, how should students ask for help or support. From there, PBIS also includes clearly defined methods for both recognizing student growth, celebrating student successes. Typically, that can be the reduction in things like office referrals or disciplinary actions, but it can also include opportunities to build school communities and recognize student social supports and other actions in which students are helping other students be successful. It also requires that we have an effective method of addressing violations in our behavioral expectations. And much like we would hope in a PBIS system that our rules are clearly displayed and students are trained on those rules and what those exemplars of behavior are, we also can train students to expect how disciplinary action will be implemented. Within a PBIS system, consequences should be predictable and they should be functionally relevant within the system. It's important to note that PBIS is not a system of discipline. PBIS can include consequences for misbehavior or rule violations, but it also requires that secondary piece, that component of giving students the opportunity to develop those skills. Perhaps the most common shared feature between a response to intervention and PBIS system is the use of data-based decision making. Too often I hear adults within a school building asking me, what is the way that I can reduce office referrals? And sometimes I'll chuckle and say, well, stop writing them, and then they would go away. It's not to say that we only care about disciplinary referrals as the only data to be collected. Within a PBIS system, we're considerate of data that not only reflects to those rule violations, but also reflects the pro-social demonstration of skills. We will typically see this in classroom-based behavior, in increased social behavior of the students, but we also see those gains in academic skills. When students spend less time breaking the rules, getting into fights, calling out, or acting defiantly, we tend to see their academics improve because they've had the opportunity to interact with the curriculum more meaningfully. Further, when we see that schools are respectful communities that are designed to meet the needs of all students are capable of making stronger gains. We do see that disciplinary referrals tend to decrease in PBIS systems, but know that underlying the use and implementation of PBIS, is not necessarily only the reduction of office disciplinary referrals. And we need to be thoughtful about the way that we're monitoring and measuring our student growth. Of what I hope is critical importance, or very clear importance to at this point, is that PBIS requires buy-in from all adults within a school community. And for that reason, PBIS requires ongoing professional development and opportunities to measure the implementation of a PBIS system. It's incredibly important as individuals come in and out of school buildings, from substitute teachers to our TAs to students doing their pre-service training within our school communities. All of those individuals should have the opportunity to learn about the PBIS system and engage with those individuals to make sure their implementation of a PBIS system meets with the goals of that system, and if not, additional training or follow-up on behalf of that individual to ensure that that system is functioning smoothly. PBIS, in a nutshell, is meant to be a way to meet the needs of all students within a school building, to build more inclusive and reactive, responsive, and supportive school environments in a way that is predictable to students. PBIS is not a disciplinary policy, but it's a cultural way to support the needs of all students. It requires buy-in from all individuals within a building, and it uses data-based decision-making to inform ongoing practice and implementation. You will read quite a bit about these details throughout the chapter. There are also a number of terrific resources that are listed throughout the chapter that will help you implement PBIS in your schools. Should you like to contact me for more specific information, I have included my contact information later, and hope that you enjoy the textbook.